It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Yep.
Groovy.
Yep. Hope everybody's doing okay out there. I do apologize for not having an episode last week. Things just, life kind of throws things at you, and gotta do what you gotta do.
Sometimes more things than you can juggle at a time,
That's right. So, But we're here now. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
I don't know.
Good night, everybody. See you next week.
Red letter day.
I haven't really done a lot. It's crazy because it's been a couple of weeks, but I haven't. Wow. The only thing I can think of is I started a new series called Manifest. Have you guys heard about that one?
It's in its fifth season or something?
It just ended, but they just put it on, the first two seasons they put on Netflix, and it's been number one on Netflix for like the past 10 weeks now. And they're like, this is surpassing everything. I think they said the one before that was, I think it was Stranger Things. And they're like, it's even past it. So it's kind of like, well, that's good, right? And then they put season 3 on Hulu because, like I said, it just finished up. Well, I think it's NBC that it comes on. Well, NBC's decided now they're going to cancel it. It ended horribly with a very, very, very bad cliffhanger. I won't get into too many spoilers because, like I said, this thing's caught on fire since they put it on Netflix. But it got me to digging because I want to know. I mean, if they've canceled this show, I want to know what the hell's happened, And the only thing that I can find that's even given a little ray of hope is with the surge of popularity that it's had on Netflix now. The creator, when he first pitched this story, little backstory. This TV show is about an airplane with, I want to say it was 191 passengers on it. And it went through turbulence. And when they come back down to the ground, they find out they've been gone for 5.5 years. They haven't aged. They haven't, nothing's changed for them. They just were, to them it was just a regular flight. But to everybody else here, it was 5.5 years. So when the producer pitched this story, he pitched 6 seasons. This is how it's going to play out for 6 seasons. So there's a lot of things that we still don't know with the wrap-up of the 3rd season. Like, what the hell happened? How were they gone for 5.5 years? They've kind of glimpsed and given you clues, but they haven't really come out and said it. So the producer has now said that he's going to take his story and he's going to finish making it into a movie. I hope it's not anything like, what was it, Firefly? Because that did nothing to answer anything, just made it a little more confusing. But he said that, he has the whole story, but he doesn't know how long it'll take him to do this because I think HBO Max, so Warner Brothers, was his last hope of getting this on a streaming channel, and everybody kind of turned him down. They didn't want this. So either we'll say, if it keeps trending the way it is on Netflix, I'm hoping Netflix will kind of step up to the plate and go, you know what? Maybe we do want to make, 4 through 6 for you. Let's see if we can get 4 to keep the interest. If not, maybe they'll at least sponsor the movie. So that's what he's wanting to do. Now that happening is a whole different story. So if I was him, if after a year you find out nobody wants to do this for you, tell the fans what the hell, what happened? Why,
Right.
why
Write
is this
it down.
person, give us something.
Right. Write the book. Finish the damn book.
Especially if he already has it wrote out. It would make sense to just let us see it, let us read it.
Well, or take a page from Veronica Mars and do a Kickstarter or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And that way, those of us that want to see it, work for Corey Feldman.
Well, and if it blows up it has blown up on Netflix that much, and I mean, if there's any potential there, you'd think that somebody would come pick it up. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the idea of taking it to something like NBC was probably overly optimistic to start with.
Right.
Because I mean, I think this is an example of how things are going to go with network television over the next 10 years. Shit's just going to go there to die.
Yeah. And see, that was my next point. I think when they're basing these shows on being canceled or not, they're not taking streaming into a consideration at all.
Well, they're not making the money from Netflix. That's the deal.
Yeah.
NBC doesn't get a penny from. I mean, well, they get money from them because Netflix has to pay to air the shows, but
Yep.
that's not a significant source of income because somehow they're doing it wrong, and that's where they're going to fall
right
apart.
Now, NBC is getting a pretty big check for a trending #1 on Netflix, though. They have royalties and stuff tied into that. So I think they didn't really. I think it should have hit quicker on streaming service than it did. I think had it have made it to a streaming service quicker, they wouldn't have canceled the show. I think even if
the problem with that is that if they just started off on a streaming service, then nobody watches it on broadcast.
Or not necessarily. Look at Hulu. Hulu, like I watch, like Hell's Kitchen and there's Crime Scene Kitchen. I watch it the next day after it premieres on regular TV, and then Hulu plays it. So I don't think that would kill a show, but for some reason they didn't do this with Manifest. CW is the same way. You had to, if you didn't watch it on TV that night, you had to watch it on their app, which, okay, that's fine, but it's loaded down with commercials and a product of our time. I don't want to sit there and watch a bunch of commercials. Something that's only supposed to take 40 minutes is now turned into an hour, So I don't
right,
like
but
that.
that's right. But yeah, I agree entirely, and I think that what's going to happen, like I said, is eventually the broadcast stuff is going to die out because it's just streaming is just a whole lot easier and more convenient, and they'll find a way to inject commercials into it. And we need to back up for a second. What the hell is Crime Scene Kitchen?
Crime Scene Kitchen. Oh, it's pretty cool. They give them a kitchen where somebody has made a dessert, and you've got to pick up on the different clues of what exactly was made in that kitchen. And then you have to go and replicate it the best that you can from the clues that you were given. So it's pretty cool. I like Curtis Stone. He's one of the judges on this. So, but it's different. It's kind of different than your normal cooking competition.
I'll say.
Because of that clue aspect. Some of them have been right on the money, and some of them have just been so far off. It's not even funny. They were supposed to make a cake, and instead they made a tart. So yeah, it's pretty cool. This is the first season.
Interesting.
I think it's just now about to go into the quarterfinals because it's kind of like the Masked
it's a
Singer.
game show.
Yes.
Okay.
Because they all compete, and whoever made the worst, of course, goes home. but instead of just the regular, all the contestants in one shebang, they've split it up into two groups. You know, this group is one night, and the next week this will be the second group. So they've been going back and forth between these two groups, and now after last night's episode, it'll go into quarterfinals, and all the groups will come together in just one group now. It's pretty cool because we have some Texans there. Woohoo! They're doing pretty good. I do think they'll get beat, though, because they've made some pretty stupid mistakes. So, but yeah, that's on Hulu. And like I said, they premiere it one night. I think it comes on Mondays, and it's on Hulu by Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think if they did that with more shows, they would get an accurate number of how many people are actually watching the show, you know. But like Supernatural, I usually wait until the season is over and then go and watch it all at once at Netflix. That way I don't have to wait and all but the last season. We watched it as it was on.
Essentially, you're the problem.
Right.
But yeah.
But, you know, there's so many other people like me that you want to watch what you want to watch on your schedule, not theirs.
Right, which is why broadcast TV will die.
Yep. Hi, Phil.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Phil.
Hey, Phil.
Oh, the fifth Beatle, right there.
Phil's home.
Shit, I can't cut this out now. It got funny.
Cousin Oliver, everybody. Cousin Oliver.
Now, this show also has, but the only reason I would watch it personally is Joel McHale.
Ah.
I am very hooked on Joel McHale, and I think he is very witty. He was good on his own show on Netflix, so I would probably watch it for him.
Which show is that? Is it Manifest or Crime Scene Kitchen?
It's a Crime Scene Kitchen.
Okay.
Wait, he's
Feels
on
very
Manifest too?
That's what I didn't see him. I guess he's the other host that's... They always have to have that funny one, you know?
That's probably him.
That's why I stayed into Cupcake Wars so long, because Jonathan, I forget what his last name is, but he made it funny, so he made it a little bit more fun to watch, you know?
More entertaining. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Kept you excited about what was going on.
Joel McHale does a really good job on Card Sharks. He's the host of that game show.
Really?
Yes.
Neat.
He's doing a real good job, but that's one of those shows. It's interesting, but back in the day when it first started, and I think it was like in the 80s, it got on my nerves because, you know, they ask you these questions like, of 100 women, you know, da 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 da, and one contestant picks a number, and then the other one's supposed to go as higher or lower than that number, and then from there they'll play the cards.
Right.
But the thing is even back then, you know, they don't just give a number. They gotta give you a 10-minute speech like they're a freaking expert. And this was back in the 80s. It's worse now because everybody is a know-it-all. So okay, well, you know, I've never heard of this, but you know what? I'm going to give you a 10-minute speech about it, and then I'm going to give you a number and find out that I'm totally off. Yeah. So that aspect of the show bugs the hell out of me, but it's a fun show, and Joel's doing a great job. So yeah, if you've not checked it out, you need to.
I may try that.
Yeah,
I'll have to see that one.
It's kind of surprising because, you know, him and then like Michael Strahan, he does a pretty good job on $100,000 Pyramid.
Yeah.
I never expected that, but he does a really good job.
I didn't expect Drew Carey to step in Bob Barker's place as well as he did either.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I just needed to interject that since we had a Joel McHale reference.
Sighting, right?
Sighting.
Yep. That's Crime Scene Kitchen on Hulu.
There you
The
go.
Manifest has got Josh Dallas in it from Once Upon a Time. So it's kind of hard not to see him as Prince Charming. But yeah, I'm really liking it. Well, I liked it because now it's over, and I don't know if they'll make another season. So
Well, when you first started talking about that, the first thing that popped up when you said it was doing so well on Netflix, I said I could see Netflix picking it up.
yeah,
Because
I hope they do.
they've done that because they did that with like Longmire and a couple other
Lucifer.
shows.
Lucifer was canceled, and they picked it up for 3 more seasons.
So
Let them finish their story.
who knows?
Yeah. Like I said, it should be a pretty good movie because the way they ended the series, that's another thing. I think if networks are going to cancel you, they should give you some kind of warning so you can kind of wrap your story up. You know,
They
it may not
care
come out
about
as
that.
They
perfectly.
don't care.
Yeah, true. I wish they did though, because it really sucks when you. I feel like we got half the story, and really after hearing his 6-year plan, we did. We only got half the story,
Yep.
and you know, the last half of the story is always the best part because everything's coming together. All this stuff that you've put together is now making sense, you know, and people start dying pretty quick because you were coming to the end. Or if they
Damn.
already died, we find out who did it.
Are you into quick death or
We
something?
we get them coming back to life in season 5 or something. You never know.
Well, see, that's what's cool about this show is because people are coming back to life, you know? So it's kind of, that's the whole thing of the show, you know? But see, we didn't even find out they were, well, I can't say that because that's spoiler, and like I said, it's really good on Netflix right now. You do have to watch it between the 2 streaming services, though, if you want the 3rd season. I don't know how long ago it wrapped up. For the 3rd season will be over on Netflix, though. So, and then one other thing, I just want to state for the record again, fandoms suck. They absolutely suck. I think you should be able to like something without getting into a fandom. It seems to suck the joy out of whatever you love or like, you know. We had an this is on Discord too, by the way. We had an incident with my boys, and it was kind of like, boys, quit fighting, don't make mama step in. Jensen has announced that they are going to do a sequel to, or is it a prequel? It's a prequel.
I think it's a prequel, yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a prequel to Supernatural, which is okay. But he didn't bother to. Now, him and his wife, who was also on Supernatural, will be writing and directing this, and Dean Jensen is going to be narrating the story, but it's going to be about John and Mary. But they never told Jared that this was planned, and they never told him that they got the green light until Jensen posted it on Twitter. So, of course, Jared was kind of like, whoa, okay, I'm happy for you. I wish I wouldn't have found out on Twitter you were doing this, you know, but hey, I'm happy for you. Oh my God, the fandoms exploded. Now all of a sudden we had a happy Supernatural family ripped into 2 because you're either on Jensen's side or you're on Jared's side because Jared shouldn't have made it public, but Jensen did by doing the post. He should have called Jared. I mean, it's a whole bunch of back and forth to where actually after it blew up, Jensen called Jared. They worked it all out. It's good. It's squashed. But do you think it's squashed? No. You still have the fandom torn into 2 parts that are like, he sucks, we're going to kill his wife, we're going to kill his kids. It's like, it's crazy over a freaking TV show, you know? Just, Now, my opinions on the prequel. If you watch Supernatural from the very beginning, which even if you didn't watch the last half of Supernatural, I mean, there was 15 seasons. If you watched seasons, I'm going to say 1 through 5, you know that John was an asshole. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. You guys know I do. I'd lick the man's brain if he would let me. He's one of my favorites. But I hated him as...
She's got a brain licking list somewhere.
Tim Burton.
And I think we have a title.
But I don't know how they're going to take this guy who left his kids borderline abuse and neglect, and now you're going to make him a hero. Okay. Well, and it also talks about both of them being hunters, which is wrong because, once again, if you watch seasons 1 through 5, we know that John did not find out about hunters until after his wife died. When Mary died, Mary was actually the hunter, not John. So John was given all this information after Mary died. So how are you going to write this great romantic love story of two hunters when it didn't happen that way? They've already told us for 5 years that it didn't happen that way. John came back to Supernatural. Why did John come back to Supernatural? To redeem himself, because he fucked them boys over time and time and time again. He dropped them off for weeks, if not months at a time in some sketchy motel. I mean, that's the whole reason he was brought back. So it's kind of like, how are you going to make this, how are you going to polish a turd? I mean, his redemption arc didn't come till much later after the story they're wanting to tell.
Here's the thing. They don't care. Once again, they don't care. They're milking the cow. The cash cow. That's all this is.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want more Supernatural or don't you?
Honestly, I do, but I don't want this.
Well, then
The story
this is
that
what you're
I
going to
know-
get.
Yeah.
But the story I know, or what they've told us so far, it's nothing I would be interested in watching. If Mary had the same attitude that John had after he became a hunter, it means she was an absentee mom. And I don't really care to know that story, I don't see child abuse as entertaining. So, but yeah.
You don't have to watch this.
Right.
No, but it's just kind of funny that the whole fandom is upset, not over the premise of this show. Nothing has been said about that, but they're upset about a tweet.
Okay, I'm gonna. My OCD is flaring up really bad right now. I have to pick a bone here.
Okay.
You can't prove to me that the whole fandom is upset about this. There's no way you can do that.
The vocal. Part of
okay,
the
and
fandom.
this is the deal. Fandom in and of itself does not suck. It's always a few assholes, and that's all it ever is.
Yeah.
And so
true.
we need to make a distinction between fandom, which is a good and beautiful thing, and toxic fandom, which is the few assholes.
Well, unless you have a whole fandom that's just
Nobody has that.
toxic.
No.
Nobody has that. That doesn't exist.
It does.
You are assuming
I
that
hate to
there
mention
are
the
large
name that
chunks
shall
of the
be
population
named
that are
nameless.
all assholes. That's not possible, and you know it's not true in your heart.
When you have the
Just because
I'll
a
say
few
cult
assholes
leader-
are really loud and making a lot of noise, like I am right now, doesn't mean that everybody
some.
hates things and that the whole population is full of hate. That's not what that means.
for some, with one particular fandom, that's the whole basis of their fandom. Actually, two that I could name offhand, but
I
I
think
won't give
that's
them
what you
publicity.
hear from their fandom. I don't think that's really their whole fandom.
But then when you have
Believe it
the
or
cult
not, there are people
of
who
the
like
fandom
that guy.
encouraging this behavior, It is the whole
That's
fandom
because
at
he's a
that point.
dipshit and doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't understand social media. That's the problem. That doesn't make the entire fandom toxic. It's still the same few assholes. Boy, am I going to have to explicit this one. I explicit them
Well,
all. It doesn't matter. But
if you're in a fandom and it works for you, great. But I've never seen one like this whole supernatural
do
thing.
you follow
It trended
a
for 3 days
supernatural
on Twitter.
fan group on Facebook?
I don't, but on Twitter, since I am following Jensen and Jared, anytime their names are mentioned, it does appear in your here, look at this. This is for you kind of thing. So I don't have to follow these fandoms, but they show up on my timeline because they're talking about two of the people I do follow. But even if I didn't follow those two, this whole supernatural thing trended for 3 days on Twitter. Now, Twitter is worldwide. It's
fucking
not just
cesspit, but anyway.
yeah. But for it to trend for that long, there's more than just a couple of loud people upset.
I disagree. I think you've got enough. I think there's legitimately a large enough group of people in the world that consider themselves supernatural fans that you could get 200 or 300 of them being dicks for 3 days straight on Twitter, and you get trending.
Because then you get the people trying to stomp them out, and it makes the situation worse.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is pretty much what happened.
You get the
with this
not
whole
assholes
supernatural thing.
trying to beat down the assholes, and that just fuels the fire.
Yeah. I mean, I was upset over the supernatural thing, but my first instinct wasn't, oh, I'm going to go be a keyboard warrior and tell Jensen I want his wife and kids dead. I mean, my God, who the hell does that over a TV show?
Literally a few hundred people do that.
You know,
They've done it over comic books, so TV show is not that,
yeah.
It's not far-fetched.
Not a
far-fetched.
stretch. Right.
Thank you. It's not a stretch.
But when you announce a TV show, you shouldn't have to call the FBI to investigate a bunch of weirdos. You know, that to me was the sad part. And that's what's being blamed on Jared, is that he caused this. But Jared was getting just as many threats too. You know, and a lot of people said he didn't have the right to speak up and say something, which I disagree with. I think anybody has the right to say, hey, you hurt my feelings. Whether it's public, private, whatever. His tweet was not private. It was a public tweet. So, you know, Jared feeling like he was made a fool of himself, you know, why am I the last one to know? Of course he was hurt. He had every right to say something, and it's not like he was like, hey, man, fuck you, I'm going to kill you. It was, I'm happy for you. I wish I would have known sooner, but, you know, I'm happy for you. That was the message that blew up into death threats and chaos, you know, which it shouldn't have been about that. It should have been about this crappy show that my boy's trying to put out to make us happy. It's not going to make us happy. So that's what the outrage, to me, that's what the outrage should have been about, not who tweeted who first and, you know, who cried. I don't care, you know. I myself as a fan hated to see them two fighting. I didn't want to see that, you know.
Well,
Yes, Mike?
doesn't sound like you saw them fighting. It sounds like you saw all the other hate mongers on Twitter being dicks.
Yeah.
Well, the first night, Jared did defend himself a couple of times. You know, he never once said anything to Jensen, but I think he did call Kripke a pussy coward. You know, there was some harsh feelings voiced on Jared's side. Which
Okay, let me ask you a question, and let me interrupt you real quick.
Mhm.
What is Jared doing right now?
he's doing Walker.
So he has moved on from Supernatural. Why the hell is he upset about this?
Well,
If he was not going to be a part of it, he's moved on to do other projects. I mean, yeah, I can see him being shocked about it, but, you know, hurt feelings over something he's moved on from. He should be conscious. That's That's
But
what I'm
he's
not
always-
getting.
They've always agreed that I think HBO was supposed to be doing like animated Supernatural, and they always agreed they wanted to do that. They wanted to work together. So for the boys, it wasn't a case of they were done with Supernatural. It was a case of we've told this much of our story that, for 15 years we've told this. But you also think of that. For 15 years, I've dedicated my life to something. I made it a #1 hit TV show. We've amassed a huge following, and now all of a sudden, everybody, producer, 3 of the main characters are getting together and doing something, and nobody bothered to tell the brother of these 2 parents they're going to be telling the story. I could see where, for me, that would knock the air out of me too. Why am I not important enough to come back and help you tell this story? Jensen's narrating. Why can't Jared tell part of this story? It happened to him too. So it's kind of like you can't tell a family story without having the family. It made no sense not to tell him what they were doing, And then his wife, which I love her, she's absolutely gorgeous. I loved her run on Supernatural, but she came later in the show. So now she's going to be cast on this show. What? How? That wasn't her story. She had nothing to do with John and Mary. So how is he including his wife, but not his best friend or the guy who did the show for 15 years? Or, hey, maybe give me some input because you worked on this story for 15 years with me. It wasn't just Jensen's story. It happened to Jared, too. So it's kind of... To me, I would have been like, Jared, what the fuck? You couldn't, you want to tell everybody how we're brothers and best friends, but you couldn't even pick up a phone call and tell me this? The best news you've gotten in your life, and you can't even tell me in person? Or, hell, not even in person. You can't text me? You got to tell the whole world before you tell me? I could see where he was a little pissed, Now, I'm sure Jensen didn't think about it because they've both been pretty busy because, yes, Jared has been on Walker, but Jensen's been filming for the boys. So it's kind of like they both have other things. So, he should have found the time to tell him. He should have. But that doesn't mean that I was upset with Jensen because I've probably been a little careless like that before too. Been excited about something and then said something and thought, oh shit, maybe I should have told this person first before, or my best friend before I told everybody else, So, yeah, like I said, it turned ugly really, really quick. Even the next day when Jared was like, hey guys, quit. It's fine. We talked. We're good. Quit. It didn't stop. It went on for 2 more days. And it probably still going on, just not trending anymore, It's just, if you enjoy something to where you want to be a part of their fandom, then you should be happy about that. Not, I don't know. It just, I don't get it. Especially, like I said, to threaten death on people because you didn't get your way. Okay, So yeah, that's my tea. They need to quit. And I think if they want this prequel to be a success, they do need to get Jared on board.
So, Mikey, follow that.
I'm going to talk about something calm and peaceful. That's what I'm going to do.
Thank you.
Because I got a documentary. It's a nice documentary. I thought it was a very well done documentary, and it is called Gordon Lightfoot, If You Could Read My Mind. And this came out in 2019, and it's got some really cool conversations with Canadian artists, and Gordon Lightfoot himself is in it, and he's pretty prominent in it. And I thought it was a fun way to start it off. They started off with him now, essentially, like pushing 80. And they've got him sitting in front of a TV watching, like, I guess, some sort of music video or performance of a song of his that he really can't stand. And so the first couple of minutes of this thing is him basically complaining about this song that he wrote years and years ago that he absolutely hates, and he didn't like it then that much, but he did it anyway, and it's really pretty funny. But then it goes on, and it starts at the beginning and tells the story of a guy who was, I mean, probably not a name that everybody knows today, because he really was a lot more popular in Canada, but he was the guy, he was the singer-songwriter that basically every Canadian musician born after 1960 looks up to, even to this day. He's the guy from Canada he's the guy. He basically, I mean, didn't necessarily create the Canadian music scene, but you wouldn't be talking about one now without him, sort of thing. He's really important, and honestly, he's a really damn good singer, and he's a really damn good songwriter, and people should get familiar with his music. And this documentary is a good place to kind of get a handle on that. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
That's cool.
He is an amazing man in every way, shape, and form. The things that he accomplished, the things he was an innovator of. This is one that will definitely be on my watch list.
Speaking of documentaries, did you see the trailer that I posted on Discord called Val?
Oh, I didn't watch the trailer yet, but I saw your post.
Yeah.
I did see the post.
It's a documentary on Val Kilmer, and apparently he has been videotaping his life. I mean, from the get-go. I mean, he had a kid. As a kid, he had a video camera, and he taped everything. So this is his story, and apparently he is battling throat cancer.
Oh, that's about
right. Yeah.
That I did know, yeah.
So, it's supposed to make a premiere in theaters, and then it's going to show up on, I believe, Amazon Prime or something like that. So, I did watch the trailer like a couple of times, and it looks like it's going to be a very interesting documentary. And he's a very, would I say underappreciated? Is that a probably a apt term? Underappreciated actor.
Yeah,
could be. He's done a lot of interesting roles that he's really thrown himself into, and I think people might see some of what he's done as weird rather than like in a positive light, and that might not be fair.
Yeah. A friend of ours, I saw a comment from a friend of ours, Mark Walters, talking about doing an interview with him several years ago when he was doing the Mark Twain. I guess it was on Broadway or something such like that. And there was some of that video in the trailer and all that. But he said it was incredible watching him as Mark Twain, and I would love to see that. To see him as Mark Twain. I'm sure he nailed it out of the park.
Interesting.
So yeah, I definitely want to see this one. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Yeah, cool.
It's called Val.
Cool.
Yeah. think it's going to be on Amazon Prime next month in August. So something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So, okay. Anything else?
No. What you got, Les?
I've got a couple of documentaries also. I saw one which is not a documentary per se, but it was American Utopia by David Byrne. It's more or less a concert of his. And what was astounding to me was the fact that he took various members. Some are singers, some are dancers, some are musicians, but they all have those qualities. In other words, if you're a singer, you can also dance or play a musical instrument. So taking these people and doing his music, which I was not a big fan of when it first came around, but this really opened eyes as far as I was concerned, because he is one of the few artists that could sing and write the music and play the music. To me, he sets himself apart because he would do his music and people appreciated his music. It wasn't just something that was brought to him and somebody said, hey, here's a song I wrote for you to do. Well, those are people that I don't have much faith in. I would prefer them have the gumption to accomplish more than just being a front man. It was a good concert. I had to see the second part when I got back on the plane because they cut me off way too early. Then the second documentary I watched was You Can't Kill David Arquette. This is about David Arquette and his venture into wrestling. How he was crowned the champion on WCW, although he hadn't done a damn thing to earn it. This is a documentary about his comeback, how he really is wrapped up in wrestling and how he's trying to save his reputation. So 90 minutes, I guess, was just great stuff. Seeing him train, seeing him see his early years. I enjoyed it because it brought him to me more to life than he did in some of his films, particularly the Scream movies. So I recommend this one just for fun and for the ideas that they present and how his family perceives it. So try this one out. It's fun stuff.
Interesting.
Yep. For me, not a whole lot. I've been spending a lot of time just binging on different shows. On Vaughn, someone has set up a Batman series, so they're showing the Adam West Batman TV series, which has been kind of fun to go back and watch again. Also, because of certain Vaughn streamers, I have caught Star Trek: The Motion Picture twice within the last week or so.
Interesting.
Well, they've been showing what they're doing is they're just showing the classics. They're running the classic series, and then they'll run the movies, and then they'll go into Next Generation and all that. So that's kind of cool. But I happened to catch Star Trek: The Motion Picture twice within probably the last week and a half or so. And even with all the warts, I like watching that film. But it was something funny. It dawned on me watching one of those times. You know, we tend to think when you're younger, you're a little bit more reckless. You're going to be a little more, let's go do this and that kind of thing. And then as you get more experience and older, you tend to be a little bit more reserved and all of that. But I'm watching Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and I'm seeing Admiral Kirk saying, "Come on, we got to figure out what the hell's going on with this thing." And Decker's going, "Can we tap the brakes a little bit, please?" It's just kind of a reverse, you know. It's kind of, you know, and of course part of it's Kirk's nature to explore. You know, there's questions that need to be answered, and he's wanting those answers, that kind of thing. I get that, but it's just kind of funny how that idea kind of dawned on me, because it's just, you know, the whole thing of how do you define unwarranted, and you know, and here's my this is how I define it. We just lost a crew member, you know, so it was just kind of funny. I did notice on Pluto, just the first of this month, they added 2 new channels. One of them I'd seen several commercials for, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool, but I'm not interested. The other one surprised me that they had not promoted at all. The one they had been promoting was a Julia Child channel. So they're showing all her shows. Hello. Yeah. The other one, and Liz would be interested in watching this, Wanted Dead or Alive.
Oh, wow.
The old Western star, Steve McQueen.
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be a John Bon Jovi joke in this, but
So, because I actually found out about that channel just a couple hours before recording. I was like, wait, I don't remember seeing this before. So I did a little digging, and then I saw a news item saying, yeah, we're adding these 2 new channels. I'm like, okay, well, way to promote the other one. Nice job, guys.
uh-huh.
So I definitely want to check that one out.
Cool.
Yeah. Before we get into this week's discussion, we've kind of mentioned it several times already, but we do have a Discord that you're more than welcome to come join. It is free. The sign up for the Discord account is free. The app is free. If you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, on the homepage there is an invite. What we do is we post a lot of news items, some funny stuff, obviously what we talked about earlier, some trailers, and we hadn't posted any kind of music stuff in a while, but I'm sure we'll get back into that. Have some exclusive activities, what we're doing this month. I'm a little bit late on starting some of it. Doing hypothetical questions. It's been kind of a little interesting so far. We'll see how that goes. And we've been doing virtual meetups since we had not been able to meet in person due to the pandemic. That still may be a possibility down the road, and do movie nights and that kind of thing. So if you're interested, come join us. It's always fun, and you're more than welcome. Okay, we are continuing Retro Month, although it's going to be a little bit over a month. It's due to several different reasons. Just kind of back up a little bit about this. With this being our 6th year of podcasting, I went back to our first year and was kind of looking at some of the discussion topics, and I decided to grab a few and kind of do a review, or not necessarily.
Revisit.
We're not necessarily go revisit. That's a better word. Thank you, sir. Revisit these topics, and some of these. So I'm sure some of these selections may be, a lot of them will be new. Some of them may be old ones that we want to bring back, whatever, depending on what the topic is, and that's fine. We do welcome you to go back and listen to the original episode. And for
Do we? Do we really want people to listen to our first few episodes?
Sure.
They're I'm sure they're terrible. I mean, I don't know that the current ones are any better, but Yeah.
So for this week, just as
Way to talk us up there, Mikey.
yeah,
Oh, they're already listening. We've got them hooked already. It's cool. They understand.
we are just for reference, we're revisiting episode 15, and it's characters you'd love to see to get their own comic. So with that, who would like to go with their first choice?
Well, I wasn't in episode 15.
What?
But and honestly, I'm sorry. I had it saved to listen to, and I didn't get a chance to do that either. I had a shitty couple of weeks, guys.
I didn't go back and listen to them either, so what? I have no idea what I picked 5 years ago. Shit.
My thing that I'm looking for, which I found out that actually isn't a comic book, so I would like to see it a comic book. I don't know if that fits quite into this.
Yeah, close enough.
Is Shadow and Bone. They just released it on Netflix, and it's really, really good, and it's based after books, so it's almost there. I would like to see with the talks that they're doing of spinning off, I would like to see some of these guys have spin-offs of their own in comic books, so we can kind of follow what made them before the show,
I'm sure they're working on it, because as popular as that show has been, I'm sure there's already been discussions and something coming down. It just hadn't been announced. So
yeah,
but I can see it happening.
I have a feeling the way season 2 will start up, it will be that they've been gone for a while. I'm not too much of a spoiler, but that some time has passed, and so I would like to see them cover that. Or the two main characters, I would like to see they grew up together. So maybe some of their stories, the adventures they had that made them so close. We're kind of shown that bond, but in bits and pieces of what make them have that bond. So I'd like to know more of that story too.
Okay. Interesting choice. Yeah. All right.
Alrighty. This is Actually, I find myself wondering. Now that I'm thinking about it, I almost do want to go back and listen to the one last year, because I'm curious.
Late.
I know. I'm backpedaling like a mofo right now. But anyway, now I am curious to hear what I did pick, because I actually struggled this time, because I I kind of have to admit, my interest in comics has waned quite a bit over the last couple of years. So I felt a little more, I felt pretty detached this time when I started thinking about this, and it took me a while to figure this one out. Um, that said, um, my first pick is, I don't know, might be a little bit controversial and also might be not very controversial, depending on how you look at it. I picked Sue Richards. And I expect that, I mean, this character and the Fantastic Four have been around long enough that this has probably happened at some point already. I think it would be interesting to see this happen now. And I mostly want to see her just get away from the boys, as it were. I think it would be interesting. My exposure to FF is not extremely deep, but a lot of that is it. I think she was the character that didn't really get. I mean, I think she got ignored a lot as a character, and I would like to see some character development. Like I said, I'm sure some of this has happened in the last 40 or 50 years, however long it's been, 60 maybe. But I think it would be an interesting thing to happen today. Not because I want anything weird to happen. I mean, one of the things I think that makes Fantastic Four, I hesitate to use the word unique, but at least noteworthy, is kind of the family dynamic that they have. And I think it would be interesting to see how Sue feeds into that and how it feeds off of her and where she basically stands in the middle of that family dynamic. And I think that's not a thing that would have been discussed in the 60s, but I think it's something that it could be a lot more important now, to see what is, I mean, maybe not quite the most nuclear family, although honestly you could argue that they're the most nuclear family of all time. But I think it would be interesting to, I mean, and you could do it with any of the four, but I think she's the one that would interest me. She's the one that I think it would be interesting to pull her out of that situation and see how she acts and how she reacts, and how she gets herself back to where she wants to be, and what that could possibly look like.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the 60s and early 70s, and I'm sorry, this is Stan and Jack here. You know, she was always treated as, you know, the weak one. You know, she turns invisible. She has a force field. So everything's kind of defensive or trying to stay out of the way and well, you know, you're a girl, that kind of thing. And that has definitely changed, you know, in the 80s and 90s and up to today. There really, to my knowledge, there hasn't been a lot of focus on just her. And that would be, I think that would be kind of interesting. That just kind of focus a little bit more on her and her life and her everyday thing, where it's not so much just, hey, we got to go battle Doctor Doom. Oh God, the Super Skrulls here, you know, something like that. You know, just I think it would be kind of interesting.
That would.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. Delve into her processes rather than just her powers.
Right.
And that's where Stan and Jack left it. I don't think that she was a weakling, but they sure didn't pull up any strength from it. And as a result, she was the forgotten hero. She needs a little more attention and more story, more background, you know, rather than just Sue, the invisible woman, Sue, the wife of Big Dude. So, yeah, let's flesh it out a bit.
Yeah, I want to see what it looks like when she stands alone.
And I think she'd be freaking powerful as can be.
Okay, Les.
I may have talked about this before, and they did show up in the Metal comic series by DC, and that's the Challengers of the Unknown. I would like to have them return, and I would even go retro with it to when Kirby was doing the art and giving you just outlandish, phenomenal stories. When I say phenomenal, I mean they were battling phenomena. So, to get them back in the loop would be a lot of fun. And they could challenge, no pun intended, most anybody in the DC universe.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the Challengers as well. So yeah, I would definitely love to see them come back.
Sounds good to me.
For my first choice, it was something that was discussed at one time as to be a spin-off TV series, and if anything was done, it was not done here. But I don't think anything's been done. But I know Mike and I have talked about it a while back. But I would love to see a series based on Rupert Giles, but back from his Ripper era, when he was younger and dealt with the dark magic and all that.
Okay.
It's one of the things about Buffy was, of course, we got the prim and proper and the stiff Giles, but when you start hearing more about his background and his history and all that, he became a lot more interesting. And I've always wanted to see that history. I wanted that story told, and we never really got it.
See, I agree. And not only would that part of the story be interesting, but the part of the story where whatever changed, and he became
The Giles we know.
he became a Watcher. I mean,
Right.
just the idea of how you get to that, how do you become a Watcher, that would be interesting too. And so to see that whole progression would be really cool.
Yeah.
That would be.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Alrighty.
Is it me again?
I guess it's you again.
Oh, man. I have to say, also, like Mikey, I kind of struggled with this one because it seems like here lately, maybe the comic gods have been listening to me. I think that Batman's Rogue Gallery has very, very severely been underused. And right now, DC is doing the... I can't remember the series, but it's kind of like the origin stories on some of the characters that you really wouldn't know a lot about most of the time. Do you know which one I'm talking about, Les?
Like the Secret Origins?
It's like the Secret Origins.
Okay.
Is that it? Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think that some of this they need to dive into our villains. Sometimes we know that Batman's chasing them, but we don't know why. I mean, other than that moment, you know what? My character that I always thought that they should really play more with was the Scarecrow. And I love the ideal of that, just to fuck with somebody's head without violence or anything, just fuck with their head because you can. That's pretty cool superpower to have, you know. I think right now they're doing the Fear line with DC right now, so they are kind of using him. So they kind of did that for me. But I would like to know more about him. What is his real name? Jonathan?
Yes, Jonathan Crane.
Jonathan Crane. Yep. I would like to know more about him. I think for me, he would be harder to come up against, especially with somebody with a mind like Batman that's totally
Discipline.
It's pretty dark in there. You know, he's got a lot of secrets, and that's pretty much what the Scarecrow comes in and exploits. He takes that tiny little piece of fear that nobody else would know about, and boom, nails it into you. The Batman games that they did, I think it was the second one where he had his own, his own level, and to me, that was the best level in the whole game because
it was a pain in the ass because you have to figure out where to hide from him when he's going around because you're sneaking around. Oh, it's so infuriating. It took me forever to get past that level.
But the flashes that they showed, it was like, whoa, this is some freaky shit.
Oh, it looked cool as hell, but it was a bitch to get past. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was. And to me, it was also hard to tell what was really there and what he was hallucinating, too. That was, especially when you're trying to find things, that was kind of a pain in the ass, too. Mm-hmm. But to me, like I said, I think they should really play on that more. Make him... He should be more popular than the Joker. You know, the things that he's done and been able to pull off. He set off the whole Injustice. He helped Joker in that way. If it wasn't for his psychedelics and the Joker's crazy powder, they would have never gotten control of Superman.
Crazy powder.
I don't know if it's Joker juice or whatever he uses, but it took, the Scarecrow stepping in to actually, he could have made Superman crazy, but he played on Superman's worst fear, which was Lois, Lois being dead, that he wasn't quick enough, with Batman, he always messes with his head about, his parents and that kind of thing, but I would just like to know more about him, more of, how did he acquire his toxin? What made him want to mess with people so badly? I think they've touched on that, but they've never given us him, So I don't know if that's more of an underrated character, but I could see following. He could have like a horror line where he's almost the Crypt Keeper kind of thing with different stories and fears and that kind of thing. That would be interesting.
That is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've always kind of liked what they have done and kind of to an extent what they have implied with Scarecrow.
Mm-hmm.
He's an interesting one.
You could get really twisted pretty quick with him,
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Nice choice. I like that one. I like that one a lot.
Yep.
And yeah, you never know, because when we did this one 5 years ago, I said we need to have a Doctor Doom series, and we did get one.
And then we got one a couple years later. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So never know. Never say never.
Well, I'm hoping maybe with the success of the Fear line that they're doing, maybe people will be more like, hey, who is that? That's not the Joker. That's not Bane,
Yeah. It would be nice if they would tap the brakes on the Joker. He's been used way too much the last several years.
I will admit that, and y'all know he's one of my favorites. I just... It's a difference before of where it was kind of mysterious, kind of twisted, to where now it's just like, oh man, it's the Joker.
Yeah. Shows up all the time, and it's like...
Yeah. There's better people in his road gallery than Joker,
Well, there's at least people that are as good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't say better, but there's other ones that deserve to be used.
Right.
Yeah.
You can have some real fun with a lot of them, and they're going with what sells, what they know sells. They're going with the formula. They're going with Joker.
That's the problem right there.
Most of the stuff that he's wrote into, either animated or comic wise, when he's put into a group of his peers, other villains, even they look at him as a joke. So it's kind of like, oh, here's the Joker kind of guy. So there's better. So
Right.
they just need to use them more.
Well, we'll see. Since we're getting Suicide Squad's movies, maybe we might, because all of a sudden everybody's wanting to see was it King Shark or whatever his
Yeah.
name is. Now that he's
Polka Dot Man.
now that he's been shown off in the trailer, all of a sudden we're getting a one shot, and God knows that's probably not the last of it because that was the most memorable thing of the trailer is him. So.
And I Flash on CW
Mm-hmm.
did a pretty good job of pumping up King Shark.
Yeah. So you don't ever know.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was about to say, and the gorilla too. Is that Zod?
Gorilla Grodd.
Grodd. Yep.
Yep. Yeah, if they were smart for April Fool's Day, they would have mocked up a trailer or some sort of teaser thing like that for Condiment Man or something. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But again, they didn't ask us.
Their loss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of these days they'll rectify that.
Yep. Maybe they're listening right now. Who knows?
Mm.
So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
okay, my next pick, and I don't know how surprising this one's going to be, but because it's coming from me, and we've talked about. In fact, I think I picked the final issue of this book not long ago because it ended recently on episode. Jeez, listen to me. On issue 50. So if you're not familiar with Birthright, it's a really cool kind of modern fantasy story about a kid who disappears one day playing in the park with his dad, and shows up a year later, and he's like 15 years older, and is this great fantasy style warrior type who's trying to save the world, except that his family had been pretty much destroyed by his disappearance, and they're just freaking out because all of a sudden he's grown up. He was like 7 when he disappeared. He's like 25 now. And the character that I want to see more of is actually the villain in that story. Or, I mean, the main villain. Anyway, there's a lot of not nice people in that story. But, and I want to see essentially the origin story of the God King lore. Because there are hints throughout that series that he's not what he seems to be. He's not what he appears to be. That maybe he was like a normal person once. And, I mean, Mikey doesn't believe any of it, doesn't buy it for a second that that's even possible. But you never know. And that's, I mean, transformation's a big theme in that book. Your main character, your main hero is like I said, this 7-year-old kid who's now a grown-up, who grew up without his parents, who grew up in this fantasy world where magic is real and big old damn swords are what everybody carries, and he's the chosen one. He's the one who's being groomed and trained to defeat Lore. And I want to see the other side of this story. I mean, they like I said, they touch on it kind of in passing a little bit. Like there are conversations like midway through and even past that between Laura and Mikey, and it's interesting, and it's also hard to tell how full of BS Laura really is, because all you're getting is Mikey just going, no, 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 that's not possible. Well, maybe it is. Maybe this is a Vader talking to Skywalker moment, and Vader was a person once. And, I mean, we don't necessarily have to make it parallel to that exactly, because nobody really got much of a kick out of the Vader as a person story. But the idea that even the worst people were people at one point, and even in a fantasy world, I mean, things change and things transform into other things that they were not before. And I think it would be interesting to kind of pursue that with a character like that.
I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
That is someone that does need to be expanded for sure. Just to see how reactions were set up, why he does this and why he does that.
Yep. And I think it's good that they didn't necessarily go very far into that within the story itself, within the 50 issues. But to do even just a brief series sequel or something, or prequel, I guess it would be, kind of with some interesting little storytelling about how that could even become a thing, would be cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
My second choice is to bring back the horror comics from EC or from Warren. I want to see more of those. They'll shoot in every once in a while, but currently, I think Ice Cream Man or Ha Ha
Red Room.
or Red Room are those that give you the horror stories. But to me, those are almost too highbrow. I want something that even kids could read, and I can be Frederick Wortham again and tell you how evil comic books are. But about the only other thing is Spook House. That was done by, Eric Powell.
Yeah.
And that was good for kids. I didn't get any objections from parents when I said, here, have your kid read this. And I would like to see that happen more. Let's get some stories that kids would enjoy, parents wouldn't shake their head, and everybody would be happy.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we live in a world where there's a Scooby-Doo comic. How hard can it be, right?
Right.
I mean, you just don't have the licensed Scooby-Doo characters doing it. It's the same idea. Does not sell well enough? I mean, it sells well enough for them to keep printing the damn book every month. Why not make another one? Sell that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But didn't John Carpenter just release a series that were
was
all
that for
ages?
Kids?
I think it was in all ages. They were comparing it to Goosebumps.
Well, that would be welcome.
Yeah.
Right. And
But I agree. There's not enough stuff that makes them think, like solving the mystery or following the clues the way that we had, like Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys, Nowadays, it's here it is, Let me spell it out. I agree. We
hard
do
to-
need more stuff
The
like
problem
that.
is it's hard to put a jump scare on a comic book page. But anyway,
Yes.
that's kind of the default horror thing anymore.
Nowadays
Right.
it is.
Yep.
That was my rant a couple of weeks ago. Was
Yeah, we're not going back to any more rants. We've had enough rant for one day.
We've had it. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
But yeah, good make you think horror mystery would be pretty awesome, all ages.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't even necessarily have to be good all the time. Just
Yeah,
consistently there
yeah.
would be nice.
Well, for my second choice, it may be a little bit out there, but one of the things that we see sporadically, just once in a blue moon, is some of the second supporting characters, whether they're number one supporting characters, maybe a little bit lower down, get a little bit of a spotlight. And actually, when I came up with this idea, I was thinking back to the series Gotham Central that came out several years ago. That was really good.
Really good.
And it only focused on the police. They did their best not to include Batman, although there were some capes and there were some supervillains in there. It was not the focus of the book. This, with my choice, it's going along a similar path, and I wanted to focus on Leslie Tompkins, the doctor of Crime Alley. She was the one who befriended and took care of Bruce along with Alfred when he lost his parents. So with that, you have her dealing with not only the collateral damage of Batman fighting with the supervillain of the week, but just all the things that are going on in Crime Alley, whether it's crime or just people suffering, people needing help, that kind of thing. I think it would be a nice little drama.
Oh.
I think that's solid.
And on a smaller scale than like a police detective room thing, and because you really just, you're gonna have to have other characters, but it's really kind of focused on her, and I think that would be very to do it more from, almost doing it more from a medical perspective than a cop perspective, I think is a cool idea, and that you're doing it almost from a charitable point of view is kind of cool. That's a nice. I think I like that as a twist on what we've seen before, for sure.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. I thought it would be. Yeah, I thought it would be interesting. It'd be an interesting series. I don't know if it would something ever see the light of day, but I just really dug the idea.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Okay. Liz, you have another one?
I don't.
Okay.
But talking, I would like to see more Gertie. I miss Gertie. I know Scody's moved on and he's doing better things. I think I posted in Discord about his newest project, but I want to see more Gertie. Maybe how people reacted when she came home, a little snot. Talk about the kid who's been missing.
Okay.
Or is it one of those Narnia things where she lives for 30 years or whatever in Fairyland and then comes back and hasn't aged a day or anything?
Yeah.
and it's
It's like
just
time for dinner.
she makes it
But
home.
being Gertie, wouldn't that even piss her off even more?
Oh yeah, I mean, especially
see that.
especially the Gert that's been in Fairyland for 30 years with the big old battle axe. I could see her coming down with a baseball bat and going, "What the hell are you talking about? There's nothing for breakfast." What?
What?
Right, just smashing the
What
dining
do you
room
mean you
table.
put syrup on my pancakes? I'm tired of sweet.
Just standing there in the morning in her jammies with a jar of pickles, just eating them, just chugging them, going and looking over, going, "What?"
Don't say it.
Sucking on a Bud Light or something.
Yeah.
I earned this.
I am 40.
Yeah, right.
It'd be cute for him to find a way for her to come back.
Yeah, that could be a lot of fun.
At least for like a one shot, you know.
Sure. Her reacting to the real world again, applying
And
all
then
that she
reacting to
learned.
her.
Right, applying all that she learned in Fairyland to the way the world treats a second grader,
Yeah.
and not
can't
reacting
kill 'em.
well. Right. I could easily see her stabbing a classmate within 20 minutes of being in school. But anyway.
Right. Making friends with Norman.
Oh, God. That would be interesting. That teacher does not deserve 2 of those.
No,
That's for
not at
damn
all.
sure. Okay. So I got a third one. I came up with 3. Although I have to admit that my third one is, I'm noticing now that it's actually not that different from my second one, but I think the quote unquote character is different enough that it would be interesting anyway. I'm not sure how much explanation I need to go in for Witchblade, because it's been around long enough. It's been around a while.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, it's this like magical artifact that latches onto to a New York cop, and kind of weirdness and dark magic and lots of horror type stuff ensues. What I would like to know is I would like, and I'm going to the sort of the backstory thing again, but I kind of want a prequel based on the artifact itself, because it's clearly got some sort of intelligence, and this is clearly not the first time it has appeared. And I would be curious to see even just some brief stories of other times that it has manifested, other times it has bonded with people, and maybe even if there's a way to learn more about its. I mean, like I said, it's got an intelligence. It's probably got a personality that we see glimpses of along the way through the stories that we get. But again, I'd like to see more. I'd like to know kind of what really motivates this thing, and where did it come from, and how did it get where it is now. I feel like I'm rehashing a little, but it's at least a different kind of. I mean, this is technically not a villain, although honestly in some of the stories it has been painted that way a little bit. But it is definitely some type of force of nature, and it would be interesting, I think, to get to know it a little better.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah. I like it.
me too.
Okay, how about you, Les?
My third choice is, I hope I hadn't picked this before, but there's an author out there that writes some phenomenal books about detectives. He's got a crime series with a character named Elvis Cole. Elvis Cole does mysteries written by Robert Crace. The first book of the series is called The Monkey's Raincoat. And I'm going to say don't hesitate to find this at the half-price books or something, because this is a great read. It's obviously the starting point of the series, and you get to meet several of the characters right off the bat. These, I think, would be good graphic novels to do, but Crace is real tight-handed about releases of his work. So I got a feeling, since he doesn't want TV to get hold of him, I don't know that he'd be that much in favor of the comic book world getting hold of him also. But I've probably mentioned it before, I just like this guy. I think the stories are strong, and none of them lag. There's always a good, solid ending to them. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I would like to see this as a graphic novel series, for sure.
Cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Yep. For me, I'm actually choosing one that I chose back 5 years ago because I still think it's a great idea, and I'm surprised nobody has jumped on it. And I want a series based on Ra's al Ghul.
Mm-hmm.
His history, the founding of the Lazarus Pits. How did he discover all that? How he come to build up the League of Assassins, and all that. I think he's an interesting enough character, and still a mysterious enough character, because the dude's been around 50 years, and we still don't know that much about him. We just know that he's been around for forever. That the Lazarus Pits resurrects him, and of course he goes insane there for a bit, and of course there's League and all that. But we still don't really know much about his background.
True.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised that there hasn't really been that much, delved into his character. I think it would be a very interesting, in the right hands, it would be a very interesting series.
Totally.
That would.
I agree with that.
Very interesting and awesome choices. I liked everything I heard. If you have any choices, please send them to us. We would love to hear them. You can post them on our Discord once you join, or just contact us, and we'll go through all that here later in the show. The best ways to contact us, but you could do it through our social media, Twitter or Facebook or whatever. But we would love to hear them.
Yep.
All right. Any final thoughts before we take a break?
Nope.
Sounds pretty adamant there.
No.
Just for a
Hell
say,
no.
thanks everybody. Good night.
No,
Yeah,
not there yet.
We're not there
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
With that, we are taking a quick break, and we'll be back with our weekly picks. And we're back, and it's time for our weekly picks, and leading off is Les.
My first choice comes from Ablaze Comics. This is the Cimmerian, the Man-Eaters of Zambula, #1. In this, Robert E. Howard's hero is considered in an uncensored adventure. You get to see him unrestrained and violent and the like. And in this case, he will discover a city of Zambula, which is has a depth in Orientalism and witchcraft. I recommend this one because it is a different take on Conan, and also in this there is an original prose story to take in also. So I'm in on it. Hopefully you will be too.
Cool.
Very nice.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my first pick, this is one I've probably talked about quite a bit, and I was right after the one shot. It was to lead us into Canto Part 3, The Lionhearted. Yay! I like this little guy. He's a little tiny clockwork soldier. You know, he's rescued the people from his town. He's sacrificed himself over and over and over again. And now he has to face the Shrouded Man on the battlefield. Well, in order to do this, the people who originally enslaved him that he just rescued his whole family from, he's going to have to make them allies now because this is like a common enemy. So, should be an interesting story. I know he can do it. Yay. But hopefully this is the third that they continue to do this. So far, every story's been really cute. Like I said, it's always Kanto making an ultimate sacrifice. And the second one, I won't spoil it too much, but the sacrifice he made actually gave him the weapon that he's going to use to fight in this one. So we shall see. Should be good though.
Yep. I like Kanto. Good stories.
Yeah. I don't think I've really seen a character like him though. So it was a refreshing change.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
It's,
you.
it's an interesting world
Yeah.
too.
Alrighty. Mike.
Alrighty, so my first pick is from Dark Horse. And while we're on the fantasy kick here, I will keep that going with a book called Savage Hearts. This is issue number 1. And this one caught my eye because, well, the phrase that kind of caught my eye was the one, the cover just looked funny. Well, I say funny. It's a very cool cover, and you kind of just have to see it. But the phrase in the description that caught my eye was all new jungle fantasy rom-com. And I'm like, I'm not usually a rom-com guy, but I am a big enough fantasy fan that I'm just curious about the rom-com part, and so I'm going to check this one out just because it's kind of, I mean, in terms of fantasy, it's right up my alley, but I'm just curious to see how different it is and what it does differently and how it's going to work.
Pretty cool.
Definitely sounds interesting.
Well,
Yeah.
Same here.
Alrighty. I'm up next, and for my first choice is from Marvel Comics. It is a first issue of a miniseries. It's a Spider-Man event entitled Sinister War. Doc Ock is back, and he's put together his new Sinister Six team. The thing is Vulture has put together his own Sinister Six team, although he calls it the Savage Six. So it's basically a battle of bad guys against bad guys, and poor Peter's in the middle. I'm definitely interested in this.
Sounds cool to
Yep.
me.
It does.
Old Webhead is just sort of watching from the sidelines here. Cool.
And it'll be interesting how they get him into the fight itself.
Right.
Yep.
And this is being touted as the start of the end of Nick Spencer's run as writer for Spider-Man. So I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve to go out on the bang. So,
Neat.
yep.
Cool.
Alrighty, Les, you're up again.
From Heavy Metal comes the new comic Never Never. Never Never is about a boy sprite in the land of Never Never. This is a place where children never grow up and adults are the enemy. So this is like real life. But what would this place be like? Resources are scarce, but as time passes, age is obsolete. There's a constant battle, and the ageless boys are free of civility and role models to fight. In this, you drop a young girl who will face her greatest test, living in an island full of immortal cannibals, and a dark secret that sustains the island's existence. So, kind of like Pan, but we'll see, and see how it's all handled.
Cool.
Very interesting.
That does
Yeah.
sound cool.
Alrighty, Liz.
All right. For my second pick, it's an annual from Zenescope, and it's Robin Hood Goldilocks. I don't know if I've read a Goldilocks story from Zenescope before. I don't know. I'm sure they've done one, probably in their Grimm Tales, but sounds like she's kind of like the Joker and has her own little carnival funhouse and twisted and crazy. So Robin Hood will have to go in and not only deal with crazy, but deal with her own demons. So should be a pretty good story. Like I said, I'm kind of curious how they handle Goldilocks, because I don't recall a story that they've done of her. So hopefully this means they're getting ready to do some for her.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like it.
Alrighty. Mike.
Okay. My second pick is from Scout Comics, and I am picking The Lunar Ladies, #1. This is a story set 1,000,000 years ago, where there is a society of women living under the surface of the moon. And basically it's just like any other society, except obviously it's on the moon, which is cool. And there's a bit of a political bent on this, and a bad guy who's trying to, or a bad person trying to take power over the society. And the interesting thing to me is that this is being sold as an homage to Moon Girl, the public domain version. And so I think it's going to be kind of cool to see where they take this and how this is going to look and the kind of stories they can get out of a setting like this. Looks cool to me.
Yeah.
Same here.
Sounds
Yeah,
cute.
this was on my radar. It sounds cute. Okay. Yeah, this was on my radar, so yeah, I'm definitely interested in this one. For my second choice, it's a one-shot from Behemoth Comics titled Spare Parts, and this is based on a movie that's supposed to be released later on this summer. And it's a story about a group of women who get lost on a dirt road and rescued by a tow truck driver who takes them back to his junkyard, but they wake up and find out that their limbs have been replaced by weapons, and they're going to have to fight for their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like,
It-
oh, yeah. Yes?
It kind of resembles what was the movie with Daniel Radcliffe recently? Where he Akimbo, Guns Akimbo, where he awoke and was found weaponry where his hands were or used to be, or the guns were attached to his hands where he couldn't put them down. But this comic sounds like fun too.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yep.
that sounds cool.
That is.
Alrighty. Any special shout-outs or mentions this week?
No, I mean, hope everybody had a good holiday.
Yeah,
Those of us in the States, that is, those of us who had a holiday.
true.
But yeah.
Alrighty, with that, we'll go on to our regular shout-outs. I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture Podcast Network for allowing us to be a part of a great group of fellow podcasts. Definitely check them out. There will be a link in the show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who make up Potter and Family, who've been so kind as to retweet our links on Twitter, and we recommend you check them out. The easiest way to do that is to do a search, #Potter and Family, all one word, and just scroll through whatever catches your eye. By all means, download that episode, and I hope you have a great time listening. Thank you guys for your support as always. I also want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying the music to our podcast. There will be a link in the show notes where you can check out their fine music. Thank you guys as always. And finally, you, dear listener, thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We appreciate your support, and we value your feedback. If any kind of comments, questions, suggestions, observations, what have you, please send them our way. And there's several ways you can do that. Email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. Or you can go to the website and go to the About Us page, and there is a contact form you can fill out. You can reach out to us on social media. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks, and obviously we're on Twitter, @Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow our personal Twitter accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our shows, it would be so greatly appreciated if you take a couple of moments to rate and review us. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for your support as always. And thank you for listening. Until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,